What's going on, guys? It's Daniel here at our roasting room over on Front Street. Today we are really excited. We're actually going to be diving into what we're doing behind the scenes with our raw coffee. So we have a lot of our raw coffee sitting over here, right there. This is going to be a Guatemalan coffee from Tenango. It's a very sweet coffee, fully washed. As you can see, what we mean by fully washed right there is the water has removed all of the parchment and the fruit from the coffee. So we can see it's really an even color right there and ready for an awesome roast profile on it. All right, so the first step in roasting coffee is obviously we have to load up our roaster. So this is our drum right over here. We're going to load this guy up real quickly with the raw coffee. All I'm going to be doing is taking the scoop and just loading into our hopper right over here. One of the things that's very important too is to make sure that our steel drum right here is already preheated. So we've been roasting about 3 or 4 batches already today, so we don't have to worry about preheating the drum. Now, if this was our first batch of the day, it is very important to make sure we bring everything up to a proper temperature and have it all ready for roasting. One second. So we got our beans in here now. We have the fuel source going, and now the drum is spinning. So what we need when we're roasting coffee is just a hot source. So basically, I like to call it like we're cooking the coffee right over here. So we have our propane burners going. This is spinning now, and so we are going to be using a method of roasting called conduction. Conduction is mainly going to be using a hot surface to roast the coffee. It's a little mix of both conduction and convection though, because as that's spinning right here, we see the beans are getting tossed into the air, so that uses a little bit of convection with a hot air movement as well. So we'll see you back here shortly as we describe the next step in the roasting process. Awesome, guys. So we are just about 4 minutes into our roast. This is still at the start of it. You start to see a little bit of that chaff flying around. We don't want to open this up too many times just because we want to retain as much heat as possible in there, but I do want you guys to see what's going on inside the roaster. So talking a little more about our roasting philosophy, it is super important to us to make sure that we have the proper coffee going inside of the drum. So by that, we really focus on what coffee we're bringing in. So this one's one of our favorite coffees. It's, like I said, a Tenango Guatemalan coffee. And it is an excellent coffee. As a roaster, our job is to highlight the unique notes that are sitting inside this raw product. So as I like to refer to, it's kind of like cooking a steak. You can have a great chef, but his ability is only going to be highlighted if he's using the right product. And so for us, it's very important that we bring in the highest quality coffee. And so our goal as a roaster is to really kind of enhance and highlight the work that's already been done on the coffee plantation and make sure that the farmer gets its due diligence as well. So as we develop this roast profile on our Guatemalan coffee, there's going to be 2 stages that we are looking for in our coffee roasting. The first is going to be that first crack. It's similar to like popcorn, if you know how popcorn pops as it reaches a certain heat. It is a kinetic reaction. What is happening there is actually it's a release of the water vapor sitting inside the coffee seed, or what we roast and call the coffee bean. One of the things that's important as a roaster is just like our body likes to release water as we heat up and sweat, it's the same thing that the coffee's doing. So as that first crack happens, what happens many times is our coffee temperature wants to drop a little bit. We don't want that to happen as we're roasting coffee, so I'm going to boost the heat just a little bit as we get into that first crack. Then that sits for a little bit, maybe up 2 to 3 minutes, and when we're in that first crack stage, we know we have reached a light roast. So for our different coffee profiles, like a city roast or an early bird, that's normally when I would drop my roaster or my coffee into a cooling tray. But then if we're going with something along the lines of a full city or an espresso roast or even a French roast, we like to develop that into what we call the second crack. And basically all that is another kinetic reaction, releasing a little more water vapor. And lots of times that likes to take on a lot more of the dark, oily smokes that you see in those darker roasts, like a Vienna roast and a French roast. Today what we're going to do is we are going to do a full city roast, and we're going to get right to about that second crack and drop it right before it reaches the full brevity of that second crack. As we mentioned, we're a little bit further along in this roast. We were around the 18-minute mark right here. We are into the end of the first crack, as we see right here. So I am pushing my heat up just a little bit. We can take a look inside the roaster, what's going on. All that cracking, a beautiful sound right there. That's just the release of the water vapor. As we said, it's kind of like a coffee sweat, as I like to call. And this smells wonderful. I wish you guys were out here with me right now. It kind of smells like baker's chocolate. There's a little bit of smoke, as you see, lifting off of the coffee. Here shortly, we're going to be dumping this roast. It's important to let this roast sit for roughly about 24 hours. That's called our degassing period. So one of the things here is, you've all heard of like a smoky coffee. That's great, but we don't want it to be too smoky. So there's a lot of smoke inside this drum right here. And we want to give that degassing period about 24 hours for the CO2 to push out of the coffee, the center of the coffee, and basically release all of those aromas that we don't want in our coffee. And about after 24 hours, you're going to get a very sweet cup of coffee. That's what we shoot for as a roaster. Like we said, this Guatemalan coffee is going to have notes of kind of like a honey-like sweetness or maybe like a toffee-like sweetness with a medium acidity to it. All right, guys, I'm going to turn the burners off now. We are just about done with this roast profile. I'm going to stop the drum here. You can hear just the end of that first crack going into that second. Going to take this right over here. Now we're going to cool this coffee off as fast as possible. Everything we do at Jennings Job, this is all a manual roast style. I'm gonna run over here and mix that in a little bit. And now lastly, this is where it gets pretty loud. We're going to toss on our fan to cool this down. And we will have our roasted coffee. Well, I'm not going to toss the fan on right now. It's smoky right over here. All I want to say is thank you guys for tuning in and stay caffeinated.